let's make another easy envelope junk journal like these here, but this time in a wintry theme. Welcome, hello, it's Barbara from Vienna, Austria. So these two I've made earlier this year. This was the first one I made, and I really love making these. They are super fun and easy and adaptable. They are made out of 3 envelopes. So the base is, actually this one only has 2 envelopes as a base. So 1 and 2, but it has a smaller envelope here on the side. And it has actually another envelope wrapping around the cover like this. So you have that envelope, then you have a little card here, then you have like the main envelope. Then in this case, we have another envelope, like a coin pocket flipping up. Then we have another little pocket coming out here. Here we have a tuck spot with a card inside. These all are actually images from the Digital Collage Club. Then here we have our signature, which is a mixture of coffee dyed paper and authentic vintage ephemera. Here we have the other envelope that also then flips up. So there's another coin envelope here, and there's another tuck spot here, and there's another pocket here. I love this one. This was the first one of this style that I made, and I have made quite a few since off camera. But the next one that I made on camera was this one. I think this one I made in May of this year, using some more digitals from the Digital Collage Club and some avocado dyed paper. I will link both of these videos for you below in case you want to see how I did this. In this video, I also showed my avocado paper dyeing process, if you're interested in seeing that. And as you can maybe see, on this one, I used a lot of my copper gilding wax. So this one here again has signature like this. This one has then 3 of these long envelopes. So 1, 2, 3, and it has a pocket here. Then it has a little coin envelope here. There's a pocket here with another paper. There's another pocket here made out of napkin. And yeah, the signature, there's another pocket here with some more paper. A pocket here. Well, actually not a pocket, these are 2 slits. This is from my die cut machine, and there's a cute little journal in here for more writing space. I want to make another one in this style now, and I'm going to be using again 3 of these envelopes. These are the measurements of the envelope. So in inches, it's 8 5/8 times 4.5 inches. In centimeters, it's 22 by 10.8 centimeters. So I have 3 of these. I got these at my Goodwill, and I believe these are almost my last 3, and I'm so sad because I love these. I really like these because they are lined, although 2 of the linings I've already taken out because they are a nuisance when gluing them into each other, but this one I left. I just love the feeling and the crinkling of it. And they don't have to be coffee dyed or anything. I just use plain white envelopes. We're going to ink around the edges, so then I don't think you'll actually see that they have been white. The papers I'm going to be using are my own papers this time. So the kit I came up with was a winter watercolor kit. These are going to be separate items in my shop, and I will link them down below. So one is a sheet with the clip art. So that looks like this. So this is separate. Then we have 2 with journaling cards. So there's 4 journaling cards on each sheet, and I must say I really love these. These are totally my thing. And then we have 6 journal pages. So it's meant to be a full-sized journaling kit, but I'm going to adapt this for my needs to work for this envelope junk journal. So there's number 2, and there's number 3. So as you can see, it is a winter kit, it's not a Christmas kit, so it doesn't have these typical red and green colors. I kind of prefer these kind of images. Love this one with the moon and the doves, the owl here. So this is what I will be using to decorate this envelope. You use whatever you want to use. But if you want to use the same things, you can find them linked below. And what I have done in preparation for this video is I have already torn all of the clip art images. I didn't cut them out. I tore around them. I've inked around them, and I've also inked them with the tea dye and the blending brush so that they wouldn't be as white as they would be on the white paper. So I've done that, and I've also printed out the journaling cards. So I printed 2 pages on 1 page to print them. In my print settings, I just said I want 2 pages per sheet. So then they come out this size, and I cut them out. I backed them with some beige cardstock, and I've inked them front and back. So now they are these cute little tags or journaling cards or whatever you want to call them. So I have these ready, so I'm hoping that will make things quicker for me. And I have already torn around all of these to get rid of the white edge, because for some reason my white printer refused to print them borderless. But if you're able to print borderless with your printer, then please do that. That will save you a lot of time and effort. So I have my 3 envelopes. I'm going to start. So if your envelopes don't have any lining inside, then obviously you don't need to take the lining out. If they do have lining, I highly recommend you take the lining out of 2 of them, just to make your life a lot easier when we glue them together. So the base is going to be the same as we had with the others. So I have 1 envelope, and I'm going to stick the other envelope, or I'm going to glue the other envelope in here. So I'm going to glue the one with the lining into the one that doesn't have the lining, just like this. Super simple. So I'm going to add my glue to the back of this flap here. And for this, I'm going to use art glitter glue. This time I'm using the real art glitter glue, because I also have this old bottle with tacky glue in that same bottle. But this time I'm going to use the real art glitter glue, because I really don't want any warping on this. And I must say, now having the direct comparison of the 2, the art glitter glue comes out of the tip, it flows out much better than my tacky glue. Yeah, so I guess the art glitter glue is really worth its money. I mean, I knew it was anyway, but this is a confirmation now that I have really direct comparison. So now I'm going to slide this in here carefully and line them up. You can also do this, it works well also with glue stick. You really want to line these up. It actually doesn't matter if glue comes on here, because we're going to glue this flap down anyway. So now you have these 2 like this, and we can also glue this flap down. like that. And then this third envelope, which also already has the lining removed, is going to be added like this to form a trifold. So this flap is going to be glued onto here. Before we do that, just because it's easier to do that before, I'm going to, and I did this in the last one as well, cut off these flaps here because they are just in our way. We don't need them. Maybe your envelopes don't even have them, and you don't have to worry about them. And I also want to glue down these pieces here that a lot of times are very loose. And I'm going to do the same thing here for this third envelope. I'm gonna do it before I glue it on because that's easier. And now I'm going to glue down this flap. Be sure to line your envelopes up again. So now you have this trifold. So this folds in and this folds over. The next thing I'm going to do is to ink up all of the edges, and I'm going to do that with my vintage photo and this blending brush. All of my base is inked up on all of the sides. And now it's time to cover the pages with some nice papers. So I will be using these, and I will now decide where to put what. It doesn't really matter because they all go together nicely. So I will be speeding most of this up. One thing I want to do is I want to put one inside here. To go all the way here. So actually I want it like this and then go on to about halfway of this tuck spot here. So I'll do that first. I'll cut that and then we'll glue that in first. If you are able to print these borderless, then these will be a little bit bigger, but since my printer didn't do that for some reason, I had to cut off a border all around. So these are not as high as I would like them to be. Usually they would fit perfectly, but I'm just gonna go with it. I think it will be okay. And I've inked around these three sides here, and then I'm gonna put glue on the whole back side, and then we're gonna slip it into that pocket. Just like that. And now we can go ahead and cover this and this part. This part here inside I don't really need to cover because this is where my signature is going to go, and I'll be adding a strip of cheesecloth right here. That is optional, of course. You could also use another one of the decorative papers and add it to this one as well. You could do the same project with smaller envelopes, but honestly for journals, I just love this size. I love having the longer size. Now I'll cover this part. So that's the inside done. And now we need the outside. And I'm also going to do 3 separate strips here, just because I like seeing the inked edges, and I also think that there's less chance of any warping if I don't have to then bend them around the crease think I'll use this one with the moon and the owl. Actually, what I should do is I should cut one and then use that as a template to have the others the exact same size to make everything look equal here. So that's what I'm gonna do. I am of course making sure that the papers are lined up on the top and the bottom as much as possible and that they are relatively straight. Okay, now we have everything covered. So this is going to go in like this, and then this is that. So this is our front now with the moon. And what I did for the others, for a closure, I'm gonna do something similar again because I just love that style. Is so I had either a card or an envelope going around the journal, then for me to add an eyelet and a closure. I have a coffee dyed envelope here. Mine happens to have the dimensions 6 1/4 inch by 4.5 inch, or 16 centimeters by a little over 11 centimeters. But you could take any envelope you want, and it doesn't even have to be an envelope. It could just be a piece of cardstock, which I have done in this one. This is just a piece of cardstock. As long as it wraps around your cover, something like this. So I'm going to fold this in half. And this I've actually sewn on separately with my sewing machine before I put my cheesecloth here. But if you don't have a sewing machine, you can just put maybe a clip on it for the time being, like a paper clip to secure it. And then when you sew in the signature, we're going to be using a very simple 3-hole pamphlet stitch. You can just sew it in with the pamphlet stitch. So here you can see I've sewn it in with the sewing machine first, but actually the pamphlet stitch goes right over it. So it's probably a little more secure if you sew it with the sewing machine first, but if you don't have one, it doesn't mean you can't do this. Before I do this, I will shut this envelope, meaning I will just take some glue and glue that. And I will also cover the front and the back. I will try to use this owl. I want this wrapping around like that. So I'm going to make it a little bit smaller again because I'm going to ink up the edges. Cut it here and here. And then I'm going to ink up both the edges of the envelope, front and back, and I'll ink up this, and then I'll also cover the inside of the envelope. And rather than adding one large image, you could of course also add 2 smaller images, one on the front, one on the back. It really doesn't matter. To fold this again and then go over the spine. So that's the outside. And then the inside I want to cover as well. And the inside I'm going to ink up as well, the middle crease. So there's our envelope ready. And by the way, all this script that you see here in the background of my printables, it's all various German vintage text. So it's a collage of some various vintage documents and book pages that I have that I've collaged here in the background. So it's all German text, and some of it is this beautiful old font that I really love. So this is going to be here. Now I'm going to make a hole through here, like I've done here for the closure. I'm going to take my crocodile with the bigger of the two holes. I'm going to punch a hole in the upper right corner, like that. And then take an eyelet, and I think for this I will take a gold eyelet and attach that. And next I'm going to sew this with my sewing machine with a straight stitch right alongside here. Just this part, not the whole thing, just along the envelope here, and I'll be back. This is what it looks like once it is stitched. I just used a black thread and a straight stitch to go down here, so now it's attached. You see it here. And this is now going to be covered by the cheesecloth. So I've cut a strip of coffee dyed cheesecloth and I'm going to add it here. As I said, this is totally optional, totally not necessary, but I do love the look. I have it on both of these, and what it does, it just peeks out here a little bit. And on the inside, you see it on both sides of the signature. So if you want that, then now would be the time to attach that. Like that. I'll cut it a little bit. Next, I want to make the signature. I don't want to make it huge because I don't want to make it extremely bulky. I think I will add 5 sheets of coffee dyed papers. Now the nice thing is that with this size envelope, A4 sized paper is actually perfect. So all I need to do is adjust the width. So I'm going to take this and then I will just fold one of these. And of course I don't want it going all the way to the crease. So I want them about this long, and I will then use this as a template to cut all the other ones. And I'm going to mix in between some other authentic papers that I have. I've picked out all my papers for the signature, so I have the 5 coffee dyed papers and I have 6 random other papers. And so I'm going to start with one of these. Let's maybe start with a happy color and put this one first. And then I'll alternate between these documents and the coffee dyed papers and just put them into each other. And this one will be in the middle. So that's my signature. Actually, I think I can add a little more paper. Yeah, this doesn't feel like it's enough. Let me pick out a few more. So I'm going to add 2 more document papers and 1 more coffee dyed paper. Yeah, that feels a bit better. So for references, if you're not sure how thick to make your signature, I now have 14 pieces of paper folded in half, of which 6 are coffee dyed papers. So I think that is a good amount. So this is now what we're going to sew into here with our pamphlet stitch. Most of you I know how to do these, but for those of you that have never made a junk journal before, and I know some of you actually have never made a junk journal before, I know that from your comments, it is important to first make sure that all your papers are where you want them to be. Meaning, like, do I want this to be in the middle? Do I want it to be more towards the top or towards the bottom? That's what you need to decide now. I personally like it when not everything is in the middle. So for example, this one here, I would like to have more towards the bottom, just to give it some variety. Yeah, and this one I'll maybe put to the top more, and this one I'll add like this. So then you make sure everything is nice and snug. And then we're going to add clamps to make sure that everything is held into place where you want it to be. Very important. Again, just make sure it's really snug in the middle where your crease is. Then we're going to take an awl or anything pointy that you might have. And then usually I would do this separately. Usually I would make the holes here, and I would make the holes here. Obviously I would make them the same height. But I think, I'm just trying to think what's easier, because I think I could just go through the whole thing, but I think it's actually easier to first make the holes here. So I'm just positioning my awl somewhere near the middle. I'm not even measuring anything. I'm gonna go from the inside out, just like that, in the middle of our crease, or as close as possible. And then I'm going to make another hole, like, where am I doing this? I'm trying to give you measurements. About 2 inches from the outside. This is really very rough. It doesn't really matter. That's why I'm not giving you exact measurements. So I'm gonna make it here. And then you kind of want to do the same thing on the other side, the same width approximately. For something like this, I'm really not very particular. If this was supposed to be a really nice hardcover journal, I would probably take more care. And now I'm going to position this in the middle, making sure that I have the same distance here on both top and bottom. And then I'm going to make the same holes. So I'm just going through the holes of my signature and then pushing the awl through the crease of my envelope to come out here. And I'm gonna do the same thing with the other 2 holes without moving my signature. Next, I'm going to take a embroidery thread, and I happen to choose a kind of a beige color. I think this will go well with everything we have here. And I'm going to measure 2.5 times the height of my envelope. So 1, 2.5. This is all very approximate. Then I'm going to choose a rather long needle because it's easier, and I need a needle that has an eye that's big enough that I can thread this embroidery thread through. I like to have the ends of my threads on the inside, so I'm gonna start with the inside. I'm gonna take my needle and go in the middle hole and go through it. Then find the hole which I now cannot see because of the cheesecloth. I'm gonna have to feel my way through to the hole that I made here. Ha! That was good, found it. Pull this through, not all the way, leaving a tail here. Then I go in the top hole. It doesn't matter, you can go in the top or the bottom hole. Through the signature again. Through to the inside, make sure it's nice and tight. And then we go through to the bottom hole, back to the outside, trying to find our hole that we made. And go back in through the middle, through the same hole we already came out. And ideally we come out on the other side of this middle string, twine, thread, whatever you want to call it. Then you make sure this is nice and tight. We got rid of the needle. Make sure everything is tight. Make sure that it is tight here. And then I'm just going to make a double knot and cut off the ends. And now we have our signature in here. It's not moving too much, so that's good. So now if we were to close it, it would look like this, and of course we're going to have some thread going through here, but we are of course not done. We could leave it like this, of course, if you want. That would totally be fine. It is a finished journal as it is. One thing you could also do is, if you didn't wanna, like if you don't have any of these kind of papers in between, or you don't have coffee dyed paper, you could also print these or any other digitals you have back to back, and then of course use them as journal pages. That would be super cute as well. I do want to add a few more things to make this a little more interesting and interactive. I'm just going to clamp this closed because it's in my way. So the first thing I want to add is an envelope to this side here. I happen to have this envelope which came in a happy land, in a Happy Mail a really long time ago. It happens to have this window, but to be honest, I'm just going to cover that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add it like this so that it flips out, but I'm going to add another little tuck spot here. So I will show you how I'm going to make that. I have a piece of cardstock here. This is my 200 GSM weight cardstock. It doesn't matter what color it is, we're going to be covering that anyway. And we're going to cut it to be the same height as the envelope. And as for the width, I'm going to attach my envelope here on the side. And I want this tuck spot to be about until, let's say until here. So I will cut this piece out. I have this strip now, which I'm going to glue onto a piece of one of my printed papers. Now I'm going to cut this piece out. And we have this, which is going to go here. I will ink around this. Let's glue the flap onto this piece, making sure that it can still fold. So this is going to be our tuck spots, but what I wanted to do, and this is of course again optional, I'm going to take my envelope punch board. If you don't have one, you can take a circle punch instead, or even your glue cap and make like a little circle or partial circle there. But I'm going to use my punch board and try to center this so that I have this little notch, which I think looks super cool. So I'm inking that as well. And before I glue this down, I'm going to ink around all of the edges of the envelope, front and back, and I'm also going to add decorative papers to the front and the back of my envelope. So that's ready to go, and now to glue this down, I am going to just take the flap here and put a bit of glue on the top and on the bottom and along the edge here. And then I'm going to line this up, not go completely to the edge, leaving maybe 1/8 of an inch. Actually, I'm gonna move it so that it lines up with my digital paper. So it's on like this, it closes in like that, and it is now a tuck spot here, so we can put a little card or something in here. And of course we have the pocket here as well. For this side here, I want to make a little coin envelope, and I'm going to take one of these papers that I have left. So I'm referencing this part here. Not going to give you measurements because yours is going to be different than mine. Depending on how long you want it to be. I don't want mine to be super long. Oh, but I do need to calculate, of course, that I have a flap at the top and the bottom. So I need to add those. So a flap, then my body, and then another flap. So let's make it about here. So I'm going to cut it here, and then I'm also, like, this flap doesn't need to be this big, it just needs to overlap this one by a little bit, so I will trim that part down as well. Now I have this piece of paper here, like this. Let me move this out of the way. I'm going to first decide where is up. So from this it's obvious that this is up. So my bottom flap I'm folding up, and then my top flap I'm folding down. My top flap is usually a little bit bigger than my bottom flap, but they could be the same. Then I will unfold this and I will cut away the two outer pieces by cutting a trapeze shape in the middle and then cutting these away. 1 and 2. And I'll do the same thing for the top. Cut here and cut here. And then these I'm going to cut away a little bit slanted. So I'll ink up all the edges, and then we can glue it down. Once everything inked up, I can just glue down the middle and then glue down the bottom flap. So there's a cute little coin envelope. Also really fun to add little ephemera pieces in for Happy Mail items. I love doing that. And I'm going to add that, I think, at the top here. So I will just glue down, see, I forgot to ink the inside of the flap. Definitely want to do that. And I will glue the flap down. So now we have this going up. We have this going out. You could, of course, continue as much as you want. You can add so many different pockets. Like, for example, here, you could add another coin envelope going down or up or sideways. You can make some pockets here. Like, there are no limits to all the things you could add if you wanted to. That's why I think these are so fun, because each one can be a little bit different. I'm going to add a very simple tuck spot here by using one of these cards that I have already prepared in advance. And I'm going to take this dough right here, and I am simply going to glue these two sides down, and then it's a tuck spot. Super simple. Keep in mind that I have reinforced this with cardstock on the back so that it has a certain stiffness. So now in here we could add another one. Maybe we add the one with the reef here. And I can just add that in this pocket. And we can actually also add one of these cards, or maybe more than one, in here. Like that. We could, of course, make another tuck spot down here. Maybe we do the envelopes. Do the same. Unfortunately, I'm covering up this flower. Oh well. Then we can add another one of the cards in here, of course. Why don't we add the cardinal? Let's slip him in here. I have this one left. So I'm going to fold this up like in 3 and then slip, or maybe more than 3, and then slip it into one of these side pockets for additional journaling space or whatever. Like this, and I will tuck that in here. Have that peeking out a little bit. That's cute as well. And now this owl I definitely don't want to cover up, so I'm not going to put anything here. But if you're using a different paper, you can definitely also add pockets here as well. And then for the outside, I did want to make a card to go in here. Usually I would decorate this too, but I really love the owl as well here, so I don't want to cover her up. And I love having the moon here, so I don't want to cover too much of that up, but I do want to add a card on top here. So I'm going to use some of my leftover cardstock. Let's make it the same width as the image here. So I will cut that. There's many different things you can make for the shape of the tag. You can leave it as it is. You could round the corners. You could cut the tops off, just top corners, to make a tag shape. But what I'm going to do is I'm again going to use my envelope punch board, and I'm going to make like a big tab shape on the top. So like this, and then the same thing on the other side. Like that. I will now ink up front and the back, and I will again use some of my leftover papers. I'm going to just leave a very small border, but for this one, since I have this shape now, I need to do something a little different. So I'm gonna cut it to leave a little bit of the border, top and bottom as well, and then we will continue from there. Yeah, so I'll hold it like this so that it is placed exactly where I want my borders, and I'm going to turn it around And I'm going to trace these, and then I know I have to cut a little bit inwards from those, but that is the shape that I need, so hopefully this is going to work. Actually, you know what I should have done? I should have just put this in the envelope punch board. I don't know why I didn't think of that. This works now. So I will ink around this one as well, and then we can glue that one down too. Now we can add this to the front. And I must say I'm really liking these watercolor trees. So I'll add this here. We can see the moon partially. You could add another one on the back. I'm not now, for the purpose of the length of this video, because I think it's getting quite long. And now I'm going to take some of this packaging twine. I like using that for the covers. And I'm going to thread one end through my hole here. And then I will wrap it around once and then come back to the front, and then I will just tie a bow. I added a few more embellishments off camera just because this video is already getting so long, but I will show you everything that I made and tell you how I made it. So in the front here you see on our packaging twine I added this little tag, which I covered with some of the paper, and I added this sticker saying today is the day. I added an eyelet, and in the back I added this white flower. I also added the shine on this tag in the front here. This is from my nature sentiments, which I will link below. Here I didn't do anything. Here on this coin envelope I added the candle image and a sticker saying live a good life, and hidden underneath we have this beautiful stag which actually says beautiful underneath. On this one here I added the sentiment the world is yours to explore, which is also in that same sentiment kit, the nature sentiments. On this envelope I added a stocking image and the word smile, which was a sticker. Underneath I added the sentiment here, be a force of nature, from the same sentiment kit. And then I added another tag, just like the one we did in front here with the punch board indents on top, and I added the sentiment, the healthiest response to life is joy. And this is from my, I believe it's from my positive affirmations sentiment kit. And I made a collage with some of the kit images. It's blank on the back. And finally I added another one of the papers from the kit to the other pocket. Now this looks complete to me, and I must say I really love it. These are so cool to maybe take with you in a handbag or on a trip if ever we get to make trips again. If you've never tried making one of these, this is your time to do it. They are super fun and versatile, as you can see. You can cover the envelopes with anything you want. You can make it as fancy as you want. You can make it as simple and basic as you want. It's all up to you. The only limit is your imagination. I hope you have as much fun with this as I did. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. Love you guys. Mwah, mwah.